Welcome to the Glynn Academy Coaches Show with head coach Rocky Hidalgo. Brought to you by Coastal Appliances, Island Automotive, Somerset Mortgage, The Emerald Princess, Bruce Kennedy Tire, Apple Care and Media Care, Misty's Element Massage, Jenkins Nissan, and by Loco's Grill and Pub. Now here's the voice of the Glynn Academy Red Terrors, Kevin Price.
Welcome to the Glynn Academy Coaches Show with head coach Rocky Hidalgo on the Bishop Media Sports Network. I'm Kevin Price on location at Loco's Grill and Pub. We will be here each and every Sunday night at 6:30 for the rest of the Glynn Academy season. This segment of the Hidalgo Show is sponsored by Island Automotive, Coastal Appliances, The Emerald Princess, Somerset Mortgage, Bruce Kennedy Tire, Apple Care, Media Care, Misty's Element Massage, Jenkins Nissan, and Loco's. And now with us as always, the head coach of the Glynn Academy Red Terrors, Coach Rocky Hidalgo. And just in case anyone missed it, the Red Terrors won their annual homecoming game Friday night at Glynn County Stadium, 16-3 over Richmond Hill. That moves the Red Terrors to 3-2 for the season, and most importantly, 2-1 in region 3-5A. And Coach, obviously a big win as the Red Terrors get back on track after two straight losses in the previous couple of weeks. But just share with us your general thoughts on the game and what's up with your Mariners.
I think I'm kind of proud of our defense and how we played. I think we really found back on. We had plenty of opportunities in the game to kind of lay down and get them a win. We had plenty of opportunities with turnovers and stuff. And our kids really hunkered down in the ball. I think one of the things we thought we really worked with our kids is teach them about adversity. They did that Friday night. Offensively, we did a lot of good things. We moved the ball, we ran the ball with our offensive line. We all just had too many turnovers. We got to do a better job. Next play, there's some different turnovers Chris provided, but hopefully I'm going to get over that this week versus Brad.
And Coach, let's just kind of go back and start from the top. Obviously, you kind of came out of the gate slow, trailed 3-0 at halftime. Do you think that had anything to do with the early start, or maybe give a little more focus on the homecoming and get to the fourth quarter of football when you first started?
I don't know. I think it was probably something we keep every week. It's a process trying to get our kids ready to play. I think we've got to find some emotional balance with our kids, not being too high, not being too low. And we've got to, when we hit the field for kickoff, we've got to be, I think we've got to find a little more enthusiasm. And I think you saw that when Adrian intercepted the ball in the second half. We got an emotional spark. It was a different game.
And I don't know what you told the kids at halftime, but were you calm, were you crying, what was your halftime speech all about?
No, I just told them to kind of laugh. I was just like, guys, we just got to finish the deal here. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's more the same kind of offensively. We kind of just got to break through a little bit and just got to break some plays. That's really all we need. Some guys make a play here, make a play there, and we'll be in good shape.
And you did get that right out of the gate with the 8 cross interception, and sometimes in the game, it's kind of like the one Friday night. That's really what you need is one play to get over the top, and the Adrian cross is a guy that you would probably have to make a play like that if you finish one guy. So the cross makes you a big play and kind of gets you over.
Yeah, it really flipped the whole game on its ear. We had a big return back, almost ran it all the way back. And Adrian played his best game tonight. Adrian was very impressive. Ran around, made a lot of big plays, a bunch of big tackles, really tackled well, and was physical when he did so.
This is the Glynn Academy Coaches Show with head coach Rocky Hidalgo on the Bishop Media Network. And Coach, playing the triple option, obviously defensively, you only allowed 3 points, no touchdowns. The first time in your short career here that the Glynn Academy defense is held the opponent out of the end zone. But when you play the triple option, anytime you play an option team, it's more or less about the sign of football, I guess. And you talked about some of the things last week that you had to do. So I'm assuming you were pretty pleased overall with the the way you play defense?
Yeah, I think our kids did a great job. I think we played really, really hard defensively. We ran the football, tackled us everybody. Our tackle was much better probably everywhere other than our corners. We're still working on our corners. We've got to be more physical in that position. We can't play the Camden counties and all these Ware counties of the world if we're not physical at corner. So it's going to not be they've got to be able to tackle up there. I think our secondary, our safeties tackle really well. Our linebackers played well. We had some big games. Jack Terry, I think, had a very good game with his hand on the ground this week. So as a whole, our enthusiasm is very good.
Well, I didn't realize that happened. Actually, I missed the game Friday night, and they moved Terry to the 9th position. Just talking about that.
Well, it's something that he played with his hand on the ground last week. We want to play a little more four down, moving into the season, moving later in the season. Something we've worked with and we've had a package like most 3 or 4 teams. He feels real comfortable there, so I think we'll probably see a little more of it than we played in early in the season.
And their running back, I think he had about 121 yards, but only 41, I believe, in the second half after halftime as you kind of took the game over. What was the difference between the first half and the second half on this stop from him?
Well, he had one big run of probably 40 or 50 yards in the first half. And outside of that, we did a pretty good job of containing him. I think the only time they really had success running the ball is when they got movement up front. They've got a very good offensive line, and he's a really good back. He's a real strong kid, does a good job of finding those seams. But as a whole, our kids did really well. I mean, when we got up tall on the defensive line, they got a push, and they had some positive gains in the running game. But I think really and truly, if we'd have made a couple tackles, we had 2 guys that were unblocked on that play that missed tackles. And if we make those tackles, we really limit their big plays and probably keep them out of the end zone altogether.
And then I think he had a couple of 4th down stops in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. And then one time they drove down, I guess, somewhere around your 10 or 15. The defense stiffened and held them to a field goal that they missed. So obviously just some key plays right there in the overall scheme of things.
Yeah, those were really just effort plays, I'll be honest with you. I can't stress that enough. I think our kids did a great job of just playing hard. Our kids wanted to win that game, and they played like it. Defensively, they hunkered down. They did a great job. I think we gave them 3 balls down there around the 30-yard line, and they just went out there and made something happen. I mean, I'm really proud of the way those kids played over there on the defensive side of the ball.
And Coach, I guess offensively, you mentioned some turnovers were still some problems and some penalty issues. I know y'all coach them up every week. Is this the kind of thing? And I read your comments in the newspaper where it's just the process. Is that really how you feel things just have to keep evolving and eventually y'all are going to solve some of the things that's kind of plagued you so far?
Yeah, I do believe that. I think it's part of the process, and we've got to make good decisions with the football, and I think sometimes there's that fine line between making a play and making a bad decision. And we've got to really examine where we are with that stuff, and we've got to make some better decisions with the ball. But overall, I think some things went on there where we ran some routes wrong and kind of put us in bad situations, and we've got to do a better job of that stuff as a whole. And I think our kids show up every day. Our practices get better every day. I mean, we're practicing better, looking more and more like a good football team when we practice. So I think it will start to pay dividends on Friday nights.
All right, there's more to come here on the Rocky Hidalgo Coaches Show on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Right now, these words from our sponsors.
For all of your automotive repair needs, visit Island Automotive, 1950 Demery Road, across from the fire station on St. Simon's Island. They're a family-owned and operated business that has been delivering great service not only to St. Simon's, but to all of Southeast Georgia for over 25 years. Your complete auto repair and auto detailing facility. Online at islandautomotivecenter.com or at 912-638-0888. And go Terrors! Coastal Appliances is your one-stop shop for Whirlpool washers and dryers, Whirlpool refrigerators, and so much more. Coastal Appliances offers free delivery and service after installation and have also been in business for over 30 years. 4727 Altama, next to Sonic, and on the web at appliancesbrunswickga.com. or give them a call at 912-267-0132. Coastal Appliances, Glynn County's only specialty appliance store.
Hop aboard for Texas Hold'em tournaments, roulette, poker, lots of slot action, food, music, and more. Labor Day weekend, Sunday, August 31st, 7 p.m. Cruises depart from Brunswick, Georgia. Call 800-842-0115 or visit EmeraldPrincessCasino.com. Must be 18 years of age and present a government-issued photo ID to board.
I'm Jenkins Nissan.
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 I am Jenkins Nissan.
I'm Donnie Jenkins. We're all Jenkins Nissan, and together we want to show you just how easy buying and servicing your car should be. So please, stop by and experience the Jenkins Nissan difference. Look for the red and white Nissan tent at the corner of Chapel Crossing Road and the Spur, or visit us online at jenkinsnissanofbrunswick.com.
Welcome back to the Glynn Academy Coaches Show with head coach Rocky Hidalgo on the Bishop Media Sports Network. I'm Kevin Price. We're on location at Loco's Grill and Pub on St. Simons. This segment brought to you by Island Automotive, Coastal Appliances, Jenkins Nissan, and the Emerald Princess. And Coach, let's just pick up talking about the Richmond Hill game again. Of course, the Red Terrors won 16-3. And are now 3-2 overall, 2-1 in the region. Let's talk about the run game. Sounds like maybe you might have turned to that in the second half, maybe a little bit more than usual. I don't know, but Garrison Hurd had 120 yards, I think, and got a good bit of that after halftime. Just talk about the way you ran the ball there as you started doing some things in the run game.
Well, I think it was really kind of two-headed monster between him and Zach, and they both ran the ball well. I think our offensive line played very well. We're starting to kind of gel a little bit on the offensive line. We're kind of getting our hips together when we combo and zone block, and we played really well up there. It was probably the highlight. Obviously, our defense played well, but our offensive line did a lot of good things in the game. I think our protection's been better. So we're really making strides up there.
Just talk about the way that unit's come together. I know in the preseason you talked about with this new offense, that group was one that had the biggest learning curve. So obviously it definitely has been a process for them. So just talk about the way they're coming together, and feel free to mention any of the guys by name if you'd like.
Yeah, I think early in the year we had a couple injuries with John Wynn and Isaac Reyes to both out. So we played a couple of games without those guys. Obviously you struggle when you have two guys that started for you last year that aren't in the lineup. But what it did is it allowed us to develop some depth. And, Marcus Maxwell, who's a sophomore, who's done a great job. Frank Farrell, who has played all three offensive line. He's played center guard and tackle. He's played every spot on the offensive line as a kid that has done a great job. He's a guy that, he reminds me, he's kind of a coach on the field, really knows all 5 spots. And can run out there and do those things. Cameron Tresvant's a kid that we moved from tight end to offensive tackle, and he's a big athlete. He's done a remarkable job for a guy who never really put his hand on the ground and blocked anybody. We keep getting better. I think our upside is very good there. A lot of that is I wish we'd have been here in January to really work with them in the weight room. Because some of it we've just got some weight room deficiencies that we're trying to overcome right now. But I really like our kids. I like how hard they play. I think they're playing really hard up front. I think it's important to them. The good news, a lot of those guys are back. Kyle Larson, Frank will be back next year. Marcus Maxwell will be back next year. Tommy Craig. So we got 4 guys who's playing significant minutes up there that will return next year. So we have a chance to have a really good offensive line again in 2015.
And let's talk about special teams. That's something maybe we don't talk about enough sometimes. But I know Seth Carroll's a guy who's kind of a weapon for you, if you will, with his punting ability. He can certainly flip field position in your favor. Obviously has a good leg on kickoffs as well. But I know Friday night after he had one of the touchdowns called back by a penalty there in the second half, you went to him and he kicked a field goal that made it 10-3. So obviously it's kind of nice to have a guy like that in your back pocket that you can turn to in situations like that.
You know, we've got some really good kickers. We've got, you know, really 3 or 4 of them over there, and Seth obviously is the guy who's doing the majority of the kicking. And you might see some other guys. I might see some other guys run out there sometimes because kickers, like anything else, right-footed kickers sometimes kick better from one hash or lefty from another hash. But Seth has been, you know, really consistent. His punting has been very good this year. I know he gets out there. He's dying to run the ball on the rugby out there. We have not punted a whole bunch this year, but we've had some opportunities out there. And, you know, I'm a guy I like to fake punts and kicks. I think we faked a punt and a field goal this year. And you know, Seth is dying to get out there and run the football out there. So we missed an opportunity, I think, against Coffee. It was a little miscommunication between the two of us on the punt team, and we had one where he started to take off on Friday night, thought the better of it, but he did a good job reading. He saw the corner fall off back in, and then he punted away. So he's done a really good job back there. He's a great kid, works hard at what he does, and it's always nice to have a kicker.
You're listening to the Rocky Hidalgo Coaches Show on the Bishop Media Sports Network, and you kind of hit on something I was going to ask. Does he have the liberty on punts to, if he reads it the correct way, to go ahead on like a 4th and short or something and go ahead and run for the first down?
It depends on the scenario, where the ball is, what the down and distance is, how the defense is lined. Our punt team is all audible. We audible. We've got 5 fakes that we run in addition to 2 different type of punts. We rugby and shield protect. So depending on how the defense lines up, we audible the calls and you know, it's if we can kind of get in some 4th and 5, some manageable situations, we like to get in there and maybe run the rugby or run a fake. But you know, and we missed an opportunity against Camden where we dropped the ball that I think would have been a really big play. But he's got the freedom if I tell him he has the freedom. So before he runs on the field, I look at him and say, hey, yes, if you got it, run it.
All right, and Coach, I know right there, I think it was on that same drive, he kicked the field goal on. You had a mysterious call where you had a down taken away from you, and I'm not going to ask you to comment on that necessarily, but in a game like that, and that's happened at the collegiate level too, but that's not really necessarily a judgment call. That's something that's definitely what you would define as a correctable mistake. I tell basketball coaches all the time, sometimes what you see on the scoreboard in terms of fouls is not correct. It's what's in that scorebook. And there's several different ways to correct that. So would you feel free to elaborate on that situation at all?
You know, it was something that should have been tracked. Try to do this as diplomatically as possible. One official on the crew had it correct. When you watch the tape, it's clear that we were in the right. It should have been 2nd down there. You know, I guess people make mistakes. It is what it is, and we'll, you know, obviously it didn't cost us the game, so we'll live with it. But you know, it's disappointing when that happens. And you know, in officials, I tell officials this is what I do for a living. This is how I feed my family. And calls like that, I mean, people get fired because calls like that. I mean, it really is. You know, you lose a game and your season goes downhill. So it's, you know, they want to look at me and go, calm down, coach. But you know, this is my livelihood. So it's not, you know, it's a game for everybody else. This is what, as coaches, this is what we do for a living. So it's not a game. So you hope guys get the right call and you know, they make a mistake. You just got to move on and you got to do that for the players.
All right. Well, we will be right back here to the Glynn Academy Coaches Show with head coach Rocky Hidalgo on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
Relax. Misty's Element Massage specializes in helping you do just that. Located at 138 Village Market on St. Simon's Island, Misty's Element Massage offers deep tissue massages, therapeutic massages, scrubs, creams, body wraps, and much more. The perfect gift for that special someone, not to mention sports massages for that aching muscle. Schedule your appointment today at 912-224-0198 or on the web at mistyselement.com.
Bruce Kennedy Tire is your hometown destination for tires. Michelin, Goodyear, and all the brands you trust. But don't let the name fool you. Bruce Kennedy Tire, located at 2928 Norwood Street, does more than just tires. brakes, alignments, repair work, and more than I can mention. Bruce Kennedy is locally owned and operated, so you get the best service in Glynn County. So give Bruce a call at 912-264-6578. Bruce Kennedy Tire, a name you can trust. Get affordable health care when you need it. At Apple Care Immediate Care, our team of compassionate healthcare providers is dedicated to treating each patient with the highest standard in healthcare. Located at 1111 Glencoe Parkway, Apple Care is open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Apple Care welcomes all walk-ins from pediatric to adult ages and accepts most insurance plans. Visit us at applecaredoctors.com and like us on Facebook.
Hello, Glynn Academy Red Terror fans. It's an exciting time of the year when football season starts. It's also an exciting time of the year if you are buying a home and need a great mortgage team on your side. The smart folks at Somerset Mortgage will help you lock in the best rates and closing costs, but more importantly, they have the patience and expertise you need to get you to the closing table. Call Somerset to find out more. 638-2020, conveniently located next to Outback on St. Simon's. Somerset, 638-2020.
It's time to get together with friends and family to enjoy great games, great food, and a great atmosphere at Loco's on St. Simon's Island. Loco's has something for everyone with their classic sandwiches, fresh salads, and specialty burgers. And Loco's award-winning wings, from traditional boneless or slow roasted, means it's time to get your wings on. With football season starting, don't forget to catch the game at Loco's too. Be sure to like Loco's on Facebook to keep up with the latest. Have your friends meet you at the Moose.
Welcome back to the Glynn Academy Red Terror Coaches Show with head coach Rocky Hidalgo on the Bishop Media Sports Network. I'm Kevin Price. We're on location at Loco's Grill and Pub. This segment brought to you by Misty's Element Massage, Bruce Kennedy Tire, Apple Care Immediate Care, and Somerset Mortgage. And Coach, let's turn our attention to this coming Friday night. Glynn goes back on the road, still in the region, to play Bradwell Institute up at Holby Field in Hinesville. Kickoff back to its normal time at 7:30. So you go back on the road, Coach, and is there anything you've learned, I guess, in taking Glynn on the road the first two times y'all done it that you might change or just whatever? I know you mentioned getting a pulse on your kids, and I know different teams handle road situations differently. So is there anything that you've learned from your previous two trips?
Well, I think it's we'll always kind of look to tweak things a little bit, just what time we get out, what time we eat. I mean, we want to get the kids in a routine that they can feel comfortable with. Obviously, the drives here are very different. In Metro Atlanta, you may have a 10-minute drive, and then you may have one that you go 3 miles. It takes 45 minutes because of the traffic. So it's very different here because the commutes, obviously, with coffee being 2 hours away, and this one's going to be well over an hour. So the big thing we want to do is just keep the kids focused from that time after we eat our pregame dinner and get dressed, and keep them focused on what we do on the ride over, and hopefully we'll come out and be prepared to play.
All right, well, just talk about Bradwell a little bit. Let's start with their offense. What are they doing offensively, and is there any key personnel that y'all really have to pay attention to this coming Friday night?
Well, I think what you see out of them is they're very multiple on offense. They'll kind of get in some wishbone sets. Obviously, they've got an option background. They'll look a little bit, if our fans went down to Camden, a little bit sometimes they'll kind of get in the wing tee red and blue sets. They'll be double slot like we saw Friday night versus Richmond Hill. And then they'll get some 3x1 sets. And they do a lot of different things, but primarily they want to get out and run the football. Their offensive line's a bunch of big kids. They come off the ball very well, and then they've got some guys out there on the perimeter who are very good athletes that we're going to have to do a great job of kind of hemming them up and getting a hat on the football and tackles.
And then just switch sides of the ball defensively. I know they used to play a 50 front back in the days. I don't know if they're still doing that. I know they got a new coaching regime and the whole 9 yards. What are they doing defensively?
Well, we've seen them against wing tee and triple option and all that, so it's hard to tell sometimes what they're going to do. They play a lot of 5 and in front against those things, but against us, because we're 2x2 and a lot of spread stuff, it'll be interesting to see what they show up in. They're very athletic on defense. They've got some length, and they kind of run around real well. They've got a couple guys in the secondary that come down the hill and tackle well. So we're going to have to do a good job kind of locating those guys and keeping the ball away from them.
All right, you're listening to the Glynn Academy Coaches Show with head coach Rocky Hidalgo on the Bishop Media Sports Network. And Coach, you kind of mentioned that with Richmond Hill, like they had played some wing T teams, and you didn't exactly know how they would line up against you. How do y'all handle a situation like that? Do you kind of look at what they have done in teams that do maybe at least jump out of their traditional offense and go to maybe a spread package, even though they don't specialize in it like you, or do you kind of sometimes go, this is how I would line up, or this is how teams should line up against us? How do you handle that situation?
Yeah, that's kind of it. It's all the above. One, we go, and if the coaches have been there a while, we'll go in and we'll look at maybe last year's tape, or if we've got some tape from somebody else, we'll look at, we'll call around and get video from someone else who maybe if they played early in the year that we didn't receive that tape, that might give us an idea of how they're going to line up. And then sometimes it just doesn't do any good. And sometimes you just kind of have to guess that, they're playing a 5-man front. They're probably going to drop this guy off. They're trying to play cover 2 behind it. They're a man-free team. So sometimes you just have to make some educated guesses and kind of prepare yourself the best you can. There's only so many ways to line up defensively against, 2x2 and 3x1. When you go 2 receivers on each side, or 3 receivers on one side, 1 receiver on the other. So it's not an infinite number of ways, and the coverage is behind it. You either have the middle of the field open, which there's no defensive back in the middle of the field, or the middle of the field is closed. You generally have a safety in the middle of the field, so that's where you start with that stuff. But you just kind of do the best you can, piece together really what they're going to do with their personnel, where they're going to play their players, and sometimes you just kind of have to have a plan. You show up on Friday night, and it's totally different, and you got to scramble.
All right, well, good answer. Coach, let's talk about the region. You're kind of halfway through the schedule in general, but still a long way to go, I know, and depending on what happens in some of the head-to-head matchups, we'll certainly shape things and decide who has tiebreakers over who and all those kinds of things. But what's your assessment of the region so far, and just how things are kind of shaking out at this point?
I think obviously we heard a lot coming down here about how good the region's going to be, and it is. It's a tough region. I think obviously there's some good. I think Brunswick is a really good football team. I think Brunswick is right there with Coffee and Ware. I've seen those guys, and I think for that matter, I think we are too. I think we have the ability to compete with those teams. We just have to go out and make those plays and finish drives. I think that there's enough good teams in this region that anybody could lose on Friday night. And that's the dangerous thing, that even though we're playing Bradwell Friday, we got Ware kind of right around the corner. We can't look forward to Ware County and because everybody's a little bit dangerous. I think whoever leaves the region and goes off in the playoffs is going to be battle tested. Is going to have a chance to get in the playoffs and really make some noise.
And Coach, just talk about how you are health-wise. Did you come out of the game the other night okay? And I know you kind of get to the point of the season where there's going to be bumps and bruises every week, and you just have to play through those things. But how are you health-wise at this point?
Handy, or one of our defensive tackles, Handy and Cordero, both of them kind of got dinged up on the knee. And we'll see if they're going to be available to play on Friday night. Outside of that, we've got normal, bumps and bruises. I think, I'm sure Garrison, after, running the ball and for 120 yards, is probably dinged up. Zach probably got some soreness, and that's part of kind of what goes on right now. I know Bobby Thomas, his ankle was bothering him a little bit. Troy Rogers has been nursing an ankle injury all year, so we're still trying to get over some of those things. But for the most part, I'm on knock on wood here, but we're relatively healthy outside of a couple of defensive tackles that got dinged around.
All right, well, Coach, thanks once again for being here. Thanks to all of our Glynn Academy fans for being here as well. This has been the Rocky Hidalgo Show on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Come on out to Loco's Grill and Pub. We're here on St. Simon's each and every Sunday night starting at 6:30 for the Rocky Hidalgo Show. I'm Kevin Price, signing off.